Hello everyone and welcome back for the prompts of the third wave of summer camp. Half the month is already over and it's time for the final stretches. That's why I've decided to let go of the idea working with Nuremberg and have chosen Warhammer 40k as the setting instead. The issue for me was simply that the setting of Nuremberg was too close to the real world and I also had too many notes outlining it already. With Warhammer 40k it's much easier since I haven't played around with it much. With that in mind, let's go to the prompts. A faction of an organization built around belief, the organization template. This week is obviously off to a great start when it comes to the prompts. Churches, cults, and order structures are always a fun part of world building, especially when you can take a closer look at a smaller part of such an organization. I will be focusing on a branch of the Adeptus Ministorum, a local branch within the priesthood of the Danish sector. So, what advice can I give you for this prompt? First, I would recommend thinking about the overarching organization. You don't need to fully flesh it out in a separate article, at least not yet, but you should have a rough idea. How does this faction fit into the bigger picture? Which other faction supports them and which opposes them? Such factions are perfect for sowing political intrigue and adding a bit of sneaky drama. A myth, urban legend, or conspiracy theory believed by many to be true. Myth template. As well as the week has started, it continues. There is practically nothing that can't be turned into a legend or myth. And where there is politics, conspiracies are never far behind. For my Warhammer 40k setting, I will delve into a conspiracy theory about the Primarchs of the 2nd and 11th Legions, explosive stuff within the Empire. Not that this setting needs much more of that. Of course, how you best approach the prompt largely depends on which of the three options you chose. Generally speaking, you should think about the following questions. When did this legend or theory arise? Who is spreading it? Who could benefit from it and who could be harmed? Who is trying to prevent its spread and why? Who believes in it and who doubts it? And of course, the ultimate question, is it true? An evil spirit or divine antagonist, person template. Call it Satan, demon, god of murder, or whatever you like. Here it's all about supernatural and not particularly nice forces. For Warhammer, I will go for the Chaos God Slanesh. Slanesh is just as suitable as the other three whom the German YouTuber Bolter Blante is so charmingly referring to as mood swings. Building a supernatural entity isn't much different from creating an antagonist in general. As long as you are clear about who this creature stands against and how that manifests, you're already on the right track. Beyond that, you should, of course, think about how this evil expresses itself. A document of spurious or controversial attribution, document template. This is not about misattributed quotes, but rather about forged, controversial, or simply misattributed documents. In my case, I will come up with a small pamphlet that acts as a complement to the Lectitio Divinitatus, the Bible of the Empire. An ambitious young priestess claims the glory for it, although the document actually comes from the ranks of the Inquisition. In this specific case, it's much less about the content of the document and more about the why is the authorship disputed, or why is it simply falsely attributed? Who is responsible and why? Is someone trying to claim the glory, or is someone trying to frame another one as a scapegoat? A relic or symbol of belief, item template. Crucifixes, holy symbols, waved Bibles, you name it. What's the sign of faith we've talked about earlier? Maybe it's also the identifying mark of the faction from the 21st prompt. For Warhammer 40k, in this case, it will be the Rosario. Although I briefly flirted with the idea of a nice chaos symbol, but I will hold off on the chaotic aspects for now and focus on building within the empire first. When thinking about your own symbol, don't overdo it. Think of the church and religion in our own world. Christianity originally used a small fish as a sign of recognition. Today there is the crucifix, which is often simplified to just a cross. When you have a symbol, consider how it can be simplified for everyday use. And of course, whether the symbol is widespread and worn by the general mass of believers. Slang or language associated with a religion or belief. Language template. And here we remain within the religions and belief systems of your world. No one is asking you to reinvent Sindarin or casually whip up a complete grammar for your fictional language. In my setting, I am dealing with High Gothic, which is primarily used by the ecclesiarchy and the nobility, and thus most closely aligns with this prompt. To consider this for your own setting, you can once again look at the history of the Church on Earth, especially the medieval ages. Few people could read and write at that time, and the sermons and writings of the Church were in Church Latin. Outside of the church, the language was barely used, making it the prototype for this prompt. I am not a linguist and I can't say much more. I always keep it fairly simple for prompts like these. With this prompt, you can either stay within your religious organizations or turn to something completely different. I would recommend connecting this prompt with the others and writing about a leading figure within your faith. Why? Because it will likely simplify things since you are already in the flow by now. I will focus on a leading priest of my local church branch and outline the basics of how he came into this position. For your own character, you can go into as much detail as you want. All you need to keep in mind is that this is a person in power. Is the character in this position because they are a cold-blooded careerist, or are they here despite not wanting it at all and having no desire for the role? The practices and ceremonies of worship. This prompt is one of those you need to be careful with. It tempts you to go off on tangents and get lost in the details. Accordingly, you can either create a very superficial overview article that you can build on later, or you can pick a specific area and go into more depth. I personally have chosen the overview article aiming to provide a broad overview of my little splinter church. I can look at individual ceremonies in more detail later. This is simply because I prefer to have an overview before diving into the specifics. This overview allows me to already use relevant areas in RPG and go into detail when it's necessary. A settlement that's known as a party town or pleasure city. The settlement template. Las Vegas, baby. Sorry, that's the first thing that came to mind with this prompt. And it's also the basic vibe this prompt provides you with. So we are talking about the Las Vegas of your setting. And here's the big advantage of Warhammer 40k for me. While pretty much everything related to war and battles is locked down in the lore and mechanics of the wargame, there is practically no information about everyday life on a world. So I can easily create a space station or a world that serves as the Las Vegas for the subsector, and that's exactly what I am going to do. For your own setting, there are also plenty of possibilities that might not immediately come to mind. For example, you can use this prompt to decide what kind of partying or leisure activities your people engage in. Is such a city full of gambling and brothels, or do people prefer a classical music concert for their entertainment? Is your city controlled by the upper class and a harsh government, serving as a distraction from what the higher-ups are actually planning, or is it run by criminal elements? A hybrid species intentionally bred species template. I admit this prompt made me blink a bit at the end of this wave. That's partially because I have a low opinion of what humanity might be capable of. Admittedly, this also opens up various approaches. Humans would create a jack-of-all-trades animal if they could, or give a hedgehog spiked quills so they can throw them at enemies. For myself, I will probably create a livestock species because I don't want to assume that the Ordoxenos is using Xenos DNA to create conditioned hybrid warriors from humans. Although that is possible, I think. And that's it for today. If this video was helpful or entertaining for you, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, and doing all the different stuff that helps my channel grow. Here you can find another English video of mine and the playlist with all my English videos I did so far. Until next time, bye!